Welcome. You're listening to Underlying Pigment, a hairdresser podcast. My name is Rob Jernigan, and I'm sitting down with individuals from all areas of the salon industry to talk about their processes, the lessons they have learned, and how they try to make an impact. My goal is to bring together stylists, along with current and possible future salon owners, to learn from each other, help each other grow, share their love, their struggles, and personal insights of the industry. Hope you enjoy. Okay, so today I'm sitting down with Steve Izzo once again of Izzo Hair and Company here in Pensacola, Florida. We're actually at the 9th Avenue location, one of the 9th Avenue locations. And I wanted to talk to you today, Steve, about the COVID-19 and possibly reopening the state and your thoughts on it. So how are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing okay. I'm a little nervous about what's going on. And probably like any salon owner, we're probably all a little bit freaking out. I think the news media creates a narrative that just makes you want to freak out. You watch the news for a little too long and you'll slit your throat. Other than that, yeah, I'm doing real good.
Yeah, I mean, the news has always been like a sensitive thing with me. I mean, I hate anything sad, you know, that you see over and over, like the Sarah McLachlan commercials, like with the dogs and all that stuff, you know. But it's almost like the news is like that lately because it's all about, it's all about death and stuff right now, you know, and like hysteria of it and like being scared. And I mean, it's a reality, you know, but it's almost like the media is putting too much influence on certain areas, not enough on the others, dealing with this like virus, you know.
Well, I think we all admit that we feel really, really bad about what's happening in a heavily populated area like New York City or New Jersey or something like that. You know, I don't want to see anybody die. I don't want to see anybody get sick. It's terrible. You know, I think Florida's situation, at least where we are here in Northwest Florida, you know, our situation is a lot different. And, you know, I really liked it when DeSantis had it broken down by counties. I think that was probably a pretty smart thing to do. Maybe they'll end up doing that again, I'm not sure. But definitely creating as much fear and anxiety in people is just the wrong way to go. Even right down to the TV commercials now that all start out with, at a time when things are most uncertain. That's how they started out, you know, and during these uncertain times, and what is your new normal going to be? And it just puts you in a mindset of feeling like it's the end, and everything you ever had is going to change, and people don't like change.
Right. Yeah. Change is something no one wants to deal with. And then with this being tied in with a change and a new normal and everything, I mean, it's different areas have always been affected differently by viruses, disease, everything, like since the beginning, you know. I mean, it's different populations, different areas. So I mean, that's one thing that, I mean, here where we're at, I was reading about like how many elderly retirement homes and stuff have been like affected, but that is going into a few certain narratives of the elderly being more susceptible to the virus, and a few other things that stack onto that, but that's not necessarily the focus of what the media is necessarily putting out there.
The media never talks about the number of people that get over this virus.
Right.
I mean, that narrative doesn't happen at all. Okay, all they talk about is the number of new cases and number of deaths. And in the big picture, I mean, I hate to use just numbers, but those percentages are pretty low.
Right.
On the other hand, this virus is very contagious.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's very serious. I mean, it's something new that, I mean, we haven't had a pandemic like this in over 100 years, you know, like that is considered something as aggressive as the, like the flu and all that, you know. I mean, and more people have like died from the flu, but the flu is a normal situation.
Yes. Yeah, I was talking to a doctor a few weeks back And as of that date, he was giving me numbers of the regular flu, it being like 23,000 deaths so far this year.
Right.
And I'm going, well, that's a number nobody talks about, do they?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the kind of stuff that keeps going on, and that doesn't get talked about in our media. All they focus on is all the negative, everything that could possibly go wrong in your life is going to go wrong right now. And I certainly get it when we talk about a big city and how congested it is and how closely everybody lives together. You know, comparing the United States to what went on in Italy is just ridiculous. I think, considering the population, the size of the country, and all that stuff. But they don't get into that. They don't get into comparing it in the right ways. And you know, it's that old thing that everybody's on. Since I can remember this in grade school when I had a math teacher, because I was really into numbers and math and that type of thing. And he came up to me and he goes, "Always remember that numbers can lie and liars." Let me see. How's that go? Liars can figure and figures can lie.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. It makes sense. Yeah.
It totally makes sense. Yep. You know, you can twist those numbers around. I personally had experience with a guy that could do that.
Yeah. So that's definitely a topic we can get into in another episode. But no, it is serious. It is something that we need to be aware of. But how do you think our industry fits into this right now?
Oh, we're going to be in big trouble if we're not careful. We don't get back to work pretty soon. This is going to really hurt. And let's start out with the whole thing is, are we non-essential? You know, for one thing, you know, I think they're going to find out really soon when surgeons can't see to do surgery that they're probably going to feel like we are just a little bit more essential, right?
Right.
Other than that, though, from a business point of view, we are going to be in a mess. Hair salons don't make a lot of money anyway. They don't have a big profit margin. And if you did have a big profit margin, you're in a unique situation because most salons probably don't. So you're working with a tight margin and you're also now out of business and you probably don't have a lot of money in reserve to float this. And obviously, if you start talking to people, you'll find out that most of these checks that everybody's been promised or deposits in your account just haven't come around yet.
Right.
So you're scrambling. And I don't care if you're running a commission salon or a rental salon, you're going to be in you're going to be in some trouble. I think there are a lot of hairdressers that first thought this was going to be a good vacation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of stylists wanted to shut down their production like a week or so before, like the actual Florida shutdown of quote unquote non-essential businesses. And their attitudes towards everything, it was almost like they wanted a break and a little vacation, which, I mean, I don't mind a nice little vacation every now and then, but this is something, again, that I think certain people were not taking certain things serious enough, with them wanting to just take a break and get out of work early. But I mean, we are a very clean, sanitized industry in itself per regulations. So I see that I feel we should be able to maybe open back up. Some certain regulations would be, I think, very much called for right now, which is something we were discussing earlier. So we have, 4 chairs in this salon right here, in this location. Your salon next door has 3 chairs.
Correct.
So we were reading these guidelines that the governor of Alabama had put out, I believe.
Yeah.
And it was talking about the spacing in between stations, the amount of staff coming on board. How do you feel about maybe opening us back up?
Oh, I think the sooner the better.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was surprised when I read this outline from Alabama because it was pretty comprehensive. Somebody put some thought into it. And it's the kind of thing that if I was in charge of what was going on in Florida, I'd probably look at this and go, oh yeah, let's just slap this right in place for Florida. It can definitely work. It has a few little glitches in it. I think when you start talking about putting chairs 6 feet apart, there's going to be a lot of places that don't have quite that amount of distance. And in these regulations, they're talking about staffs under 4 people being 6 feet apart is going to be okay. You cannot have more than 1 client at a time in the building for each person. So your clientele cannot wait inside the building. They have to wait outside the building or in the car. I guess you could text them and tell them to come in at a certain time.
Yeah.
Which is probably going to slow you down just a little bit more. You can't double book clients. You can't do 2 colors at one time, that type of thing, or a cut in the middle of all the colors processing. It didn't elaborate in here, but I think it's going to create a little problem if you work with an assistant or
right.
if you are in a training kind of situation. Like, I don't particularly work with an assistant all the time, but I do bring in kids out of school and train them as I'm working. I don't like the idea of just having grunts run around and shampoo and sweep all the time. I don't think that's necessary. I like the idea of training people on the
right.
job kind of thing. I
Definitely.
think it really helps out a lot. I think you learn a lot better, and I can talk to you while I'm doing it. I've been doing this my entire career this way. I like it. I like the way that the information gets around. That would have to stop. That's not good.
No.
I mean, train, hundreds of people in my career, and all of a sudden that would stop. Maybe it's only going to stop for a limited amount of time. I'm not sure. But eliminating this numbers of people is going to be also a revenue killer.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. If you're 4 and above, and it sounds like in this scenario, you could only have half of your staff working at one time. So say you got 20 people working. That means only 10 of them can be working at one time max. And I assume that would be including people that are assisting and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And you can only have 1 client at a time in the chair. Well, all of a sudden you're going to look at it and go, okay, that's going to cut the revenue down. It's going to be an existence. It's going to give you some money. It puts you out of the unemployment bracket.
Right. It's going to, it's going to bring down revenue, but in actuality, it's going to increase revenue right now because when you have nothing, you have nothing.
Yeah. But I wonder if an employee is going to look at it and go, well, if I can get an unemployment plus $600 a week, maybe I'm better off just staying home.
Yeah. If they're going to get that check.
Yeah. If they're going to get that check,
which
I think it will come through. I think it's just a matter of timing on that. Once it gets rolling, you got to look at all these things. We can all sit around and bitch about something and say, well, the checks haven't come out and that type of thing. But you're talking about taking millions of people all at once and try to institute a new program.
Definitely.
It's not easy.
Right.
I don't want that job. I don't want the president's job. I don't want IRS's job. We can all sit here and just, we're Monday morning quarterbacks, and we can say, well, it should be this way and it should be that way. Don't say you can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an easy job.
Yeah. So
I hate to be critical of all that stuff. Yes, would it be nice if Congress was still working? I mean, we'd be happy about that. But the politics of it is harmful. Absolutely. I'm not a big fan of either party right now. But I do believe that there are a lot of people there putting in a good effort. And it's not an easy situation because it's never happened before. So, for me to criticize how it's done, it's just not my place. I just don't see it. I'd rather wait and see how they keep doing it. Now, you got protesting going on all over the country all of a sudden because people are starting to sit back and go, I've had enough of this type of thing.
Right.
On the other hand, you got to be careful. You don't want this virus to just keep picking up. You don't want to pick up speed again. I think we're going to have to be careful of that in the hair salon.
Yeah. So
wiping down things is going to be important.
Sanitation go into a new level.
New level.
You got
to take it into my wife's level. Judy level is right up there at the top anyway.
Yeah,
okay?
We could do a step-by-step video with her. And
Yeah, she could actually create the standards for that. She wipes me down when I walk in the house. Okay, so that type of thing is a little crazy, but we were doing that here. You know, we were wiping down everything. I mean, she had a bottle of spray barbicide out and just going around wiping down everything. Whenever client left, you wipe down the whole salon, start over again. I like it. It's a good policy.
Yeah.
I think if nothing else, after we get through this, it will be some different standards, which would be a good thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking at these guidelines, I mean, just for the employee protection. So services will be provided by appointment only, no walk-ins.
And I'm assuming that means that you're not going to have people walking in and sitting down.
Right.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously, if you don't have someone in your chair right
somebody
then,
who walks in,
I could see it. I mean, you wouldn't want to turn revenue away, you know. And then post a sign outside the front door. It states that any customer who has symptoms must reschedule their appointment. I've always been a huge advocate of, if you have symptoms of anything, I don't want you in my chair.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, that's just common sense. Salons will limit the number of clients in the store to one person per stylist. So in the salon, one per stylist, complete, just like we were mentioning earlier. And customers will be required to wash and sanitize their hands upon entering the salon. I mean, a lot of this is common sense stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of it, I don't think will necessarily change much of anything, except how many clients can be performed on at a time. But again, I mean, you were bringing in revenue at that point, whereas you didn't have any before. So one interesting thing on here, which is becoming the new normal for everyone, is stylists would wear a face mask and wear protective gloves, except when cutting hair. So how do you, have you ever styled hair with gloves on?
No, that would be tricky.
Yeah.
Okay. These are the types of things, though, that could get, I don't know, that could get messy.
Yeah.
Will I try it to get back to work? Absolutely. You know, the whole face mask thing, you know, our work is hot.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're in a face mask trying to talk to people. Is definitely going to be a little tricky for us, that type of thing. I'm thinking of this as more of a temporary thing as opposed to a permanent thing.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't mind working this way for a few months maybe. I'd hate to think that it went on longer than that.
Definitely. I mean, just the fact of getting back to work is, I mean, you make some sacrifices for your health, for your client's health.
It's
and
worthwhile.
For your pocketbook. Like, let's do it, you know?
It's worthwhile.
Yeah.
You know, the challenge is going to be getting enough face masks, just like any other place, and of course enough gloves to keep it going.
So that's the thing. Gloves right now, I mean, they're scarce everywhere, but a lot of salons have actually donated their gloves.
Yeah.
To hospitals,
exactly.
to places that have been considered essential, that have been the grocery stores, fast food chains, all that, the ones who have gotten us through this to where we can go get food, we can go get our money at the banks and all that stuff, you know. So we have to now worry about the supply chain with gloves and then with face mask. I mean, obviously we can make face masks from home with all the do-it-yourself videos that are out there right now that are good videos, but you can't make gloves at home.
No.
So, I mean, we need to find out if we can reopen by having the right tools.
Yep. And it's going to be a challenge for sure.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully the beauty suppliers would have some supplies of this stuff and could get it out to us quickly. I hope so. I'm sure some of those distributors have large amounts of it sitting around.
So one thing with that, so a lot of these manufacturers have actually ceased production for one of two reasons. They are either in a country that businesses were shut down completely, or they stopped manufacturing to produce hand sanitizer for everyone.
Right.
Which is a great thing. You know, I mean, they're contributing that way. But how is the supply flow going to be for getting back into the salons?
Yeah, it could be a challenge for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, we could get into, I think all we need to do, hand sanitizer, I think all we need to do is wash our hands. And I think, the soap and water thing is perfectly effective. Most of us have our hands in water all day long. We had our clients already starting to come in and wash their hands before they sat down. And I think these are good policies. I don't think that's going to hurt anybody. The challenge is going to be getting some of these supplies into the salons. I think the other challenge is going to be is if you got a pretty good setup if you got small salons. If you got a big salon, you got a little bit more of a challenge. You might have to go to work 7 days a week to be able to fit all your people in.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is not a bad thing. I mean, you'd still have days off.
Definitely. I mean, increase your production hours by adding on 1 or 2 days that you're open, and also a few hours in the morning that
open up earlier, run two shifts.
Open up early, close later. I mean, I think you'll be good.
Yeah. Actually, when we had our salons up north, we ran it as 2 shifts. We ran from 9 to 2 and then 2:30 to 8 or something like that, 2:30 to 9, I can't remember. But we ran 2 shifts a day. And it split the staff up. Somebody come into a morning shift, and it worked out actually better because you had parents and stuff like that could either work a morning or an afternoon easier because the other parent was home, or picking up kids from school after 2 o'clock. It really does. It can be an effective way to run your business.
So, how do you think this would affect salons in the bigger areas that are departmentalized?
I think they're going to have a really hard time.
Yeah.
Like when I was in New York, for instance, okay, those salons up there, you had to walk sideways past the people to get to your chair.
Yeah.
Okay. I literally walk sideways. You couldn't just walk in and sit down. It's because space is a premium and it costs a lot of money.
Right.
So square footage isn't something you give up easily.
Yeah.
These guys are going to have a really hard time. I don't know what they're going to do. Even in our salon in Gulf Breeze, we got 6 chairs there. My wife and I were talking about it last night. We're going to probably have to space those out differently.
Yeah.
Okay. We might eliminate one of them or something. She's got it figured out. She was working on it. But I think in a city like that, you're going to have to definitely change it. Bad news is the rent is very expensive.
Yeah.
So the overhead is outrageous. Are they going to be able to make it? You're going to have some people not be able to make it.
I mean, right now you have people who are not able to pay rent. I mean, or their mortgage on salons if they actually own the real estate. But again, it goes back to they're actually able to bring in some revenue.
Yeah.
And that's better than nothing.
Yeah.
But is it all going to go to keeping the lights on?
Yeah. It might not.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is going to be trouble.
Yeah.
This is not going to be easy. You're going to, your people that are more focused on business are probably going to have an easier time of it. People that aren't so focused are probably going to have it kind of rough. I do think the situation where you got the smaller salon, you could probably work this out pretty simply. We didn't have any trouble thinking about this for our salons, mainly because we're small enough. We got multiple locations, but they're all small. So I think it's going to work out just fine. Working at a larger salon, it's going to be a little bit more challenging depending on the space you got and how much your overhead is and how many people you got working. I did notice in this Alabama thing that it didn't address having desk staff. So probably that's an exception too. You probably will be able to have desk staff there.
Yeah. Now I did notice that it does talk about payment methods. I mean, it mentions credit and debit cards, obviously, like for using Square or something like that. But it also mentions PayPal and Venmo, which would be completely contactless, like payment methods,
Yeah, there was one spot that said no cash payment. I think that was in the barbers section.
Yeah.
I looked at that. That was another whole section. I don't think I sent that over to you. There was a section of the barber that says no cash payments. I thought, well, that's kind of crazy. Not everybody's going to have credit cards or different methods of paying.
Right.
I don't think you can eliminate cash payments for people.
I don't think so, but I mean, cash has always been one of the dirtiest things out there, but just getting some cash revenue back into a salon, back into the hairstylist pockets is something that I feel like we need to do.
Yeah,
sooner than later.
I mean, when I read this thing over for Alabama, for me at first it kind of got you a little bit, but then I thought about it and I said, you know what, this is positive.
Yeah.
Let's get people working.
Yeah,
Let's test it out, see how it goes. Stop whining about it. We do enough whining. We're great at that. Let's just look at it and go, let's make a run for it and go for it, because we are survivors and we've got to make this happen, because we're going to be in trouble if we don't. We can piss and moan all we want, but in the end, it's better off to be working. I want to get back to work quick, and I'm ready for it. I had an antibody test yesterday. I went to Rejuvamed, Dr. Trish Green over in Gulf Breeze. She has an office above my salon there.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any of the antibodies, which just means I haven't had any exposure. And like she was telling me, she said, I've got 100 of these tests, so if anybody wants to get one, you can call her up and get the antibody test done. It only takes like 15 minutes. It's nothing. It gives you the results immediately.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Like she said, if I do 100 tests and I don't have any people with antibodies, that means our exposure has been pretty minimal.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we got to look at. I was pulling up some numbers. In Escambia County, for instance, there was 200, of course this changes by the hour a little bit, probably. There was 290 cases and there was 6 deaths, 27 hospitalizations.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're talking about a population of over 315,000 people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty small numbers for the amount of fear that we are generating. That's what I don't like.
Definitely.
We got to stop looking at what's going on in New York City. We got to look at our own neighborhood right now, because we got to get some people in this country got to get back to work, and otherwise we're going to be in big trouble. My friend Mark Tegenkamp sent me a video this morning. He was driving down 98 through Navarre, and there was literally hundreds of cars lined up to get food. This is not a good scenario that's going on.
Yeah.
And even in our own area, this thing's happening and we got to get people back to work. This is not a good situation to be out of work. Not at all. We cannot hide.
Yeah. So one thing I've seen is the recent quarantine, whether it's like mandatory, like stay indoors, however you are taking it or treating it for yourself. Like there's been suicides of people with like depression from it and stuff like that. It's not healthy all around for everyone to be cooped up like this and to be in a situation where they can't live freely.
I was talking to another doctor who was telling me that, the number of people in the hospital right now is low in our area.
Yeah.
Okay. He said, we got more people dying at home.
Yeah.
We got a lot of people dying at home because they won't go to the hospital.
Yeah.
That's not good.
No.
Okay, so there's a lot happening around us that everything gets affected, and we can't just curl up in a ball.
Right. Yeah.
I used the comparison. I think somebody else used this. I might have stole it from somebody that said, when we had the 9/11. Mm-hmm. Okay, the theme there was let's roll. Remember Todd Beamer? Mm-hmm. Was on one of the flights and tried to retake the airplane, and that became the theme of 9/11. Let's roll. This one is like let's roll up in a ball and hide.
Yeah.
I just don't like that at all. I don't like that.
I think a lot
attitude.
of the media has a lot.
Social
to do with
media
that.
and TV has really affected it so much. I got another thing here. I've got a form yesterday from Dr. Green. And she said, you could incorporate this into the hair salons too. You could actually have a questionnaire for people coming in, which wouldn't be a bad idea. Stuff like, have you had a fever? I went out and I bought one of those.
The thermometers?
Yeah, the infrared thermometers. Yeah. I'm going to have them in all the salons. Yeah. Okay, you just, point it at your forehead, shoot it, and you get the temperature of people right away. But she said it doesn't hurt to ask people, have you been tired? You've been coughing, body aches. Have you known anybody that's been exposed? Have you had any symptoms in the last 14 days? This kind of stuff. Have you traveled? Yeah. It's not like we have to take people in.
Right. I mean, and we have more intimate conversations with our clients.
We do.
Than
And how many
Do you
times
feel like shit
have
right
you-
now, or you've been good, or what?
How many times in past years have you been working on a client that's been kind of sick and she said, I think it's just my allergies. And you're like, yeah, you look like you're breaking out in a sweat from a fever.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And then you wonder why you get sick. So, this in the long run could be really good for all of us. We
Yeah,
could become
definitely.
less sick over, as we get more into this and figure it all out. I think there's a lot of positives, and we got to focus on the positives.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Steve. I am going to put in the comments and sections on the podcast the link to look into signing a petition in whatever state you're in. And we're going to continue with some conversations here in a few. So appreciate you tuning in, and y'all have a good day. Stay safe.